Hello, I'm Deborah Sword.
Hello, I'm Tyson Bankert.
Tyson, have you ever had a situation where you edited or censored your thoughts or your words um, because you wanted to accommodate somebody else or they wanted you to edit or censor your words? Have you ever? I've had that experience. What about you?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think we're always editing or censoring ourselves every single day. In to some capacity. I often think that it sometimes challenges my most authentic self, right? When I'm having to ref, you know, say too much or say too little, or how do I say it, or my tone. But I think all of those skills really are a way of what we talk about in the conflict owner's manual, right? Is being able to be reflective, but I will say though, I think it can feel a little bit sometimes too much. It can it can be the cause of conflict. And when we're editing too much. I actually recall just the other day I was in a workshop and one of the participants said to another participant, "Oh, you shouldn't say it that way." And I just thought that's so interesting because I had to kind of go, let's see out here a second. Because what do you mean that they shouldn't say it that way? What are we really saying? And I'll admit, in that moment, it actually really impacted a value set that I have around personal agency. Like we shouldn't really be going on telling everyone else how we should say and do anything. But I think more importantly, it the question was is why? Like why should we um, edit or not edit ourselves? But yeah, I'm curious to know what you're thinking.
Well, that's a good point about agency. I want to do say one caveat though. When we're talking about accommodating and like this person said, you shouldn't, there's two aspects of that. One is the control, which, as you say,
Right.
affects agency. Is are you being controlled?
Hmm.
Accommodating the way we use it in conflict styles is not about intimate partner abuse. We don't mean this to apply to abuse or bullying
Right.
or controlling people. But I've got some examples as well. And I'm thinking I had a coworker once, Fran, and she was exhausted one day at work. She had stayed up way past her bedtime because her husband wanted to go to a party with people she didn't particularly like. And I asked her why she didn't just tell him she wanted to stay home. And she was shocked at the idea that she could do that because
Mm.
he'd have been unhappy with her. And I said, yeah, but that would be his problem. And she looked at me and said, but if he's unhappy, I'm unhappy. And this was new information for me because I'd been raised by parents who were almost always unhappy with something the other person had
Right.
done. It hadn't occurred to me that you accommodated the other person because their happiness made you happy. Uh, so that was quite an interesting lesson for me. So with accommodating, if you're both happy enough to not have continual small battles, and if it means that
Yeah.
if sometimes you feel the relationship is more important than sticking to your point and getting your needs met, well, then fine. Who am I to judge?
Yeah, I think it comes back to that question I asked the person yesterday, why? Like why why is our motivation for the edit or having to you know, and what are we and are we acknowledging what we are accommodating when we're saying when we are doing that? Is it worth the accommodating the accommodation, right?
Yeah.
And I also think though to your colleague Fran, it's does that person does her partner know that she's always accommodating? Because right, and like how do and then how does that person make them feel, right? Because it sounds like that's a situation where it's always been that's just how it has been. And so it always I think the the opportunity um for conflict is actually it would probably be really enriching.
It could be if she would express her interest that way. And I did get the sense with Fran that she was always the one who was making the sacrifices. So
Hmm.
that's, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And
Mm,
this is the point with every conflict style is that they all have an appropriate use. And the conflict competency is to be self-aware of what is the style you traditionally or usually default to, and when is it appropriate? When would another style be better? Because remember, we all have access to all of the styles. So if you're both happy, um, that's the good part. You're accommodating, they're happy, you're happy, great. Uh, but when you're always the one making the small sacrifices or large sacrifices, and the other person doesn't seem to notice or care or appreciate it, the resentment can eat at you.
hmm hmm Absolutely.
And the ugly part is when you just become a doormat, when you're just always giving in.
Hmm. Do you find in your experience that that person who is always in that accommodating, um, does it get easier or harder to engage in the conflict as time goes on? Or does it just maybe blow up?
Yeah, that's a good question. And again, it's very context specific. It may be that they only accommodate in this situation or with this person or when they're tired or when they feel powerless. So it's very context specific. But if someone is perpetually accommodating all of the time and starting to resent it, at that point, that's beyond conflict analysis. That may need a different kind of professional help.
Well, I definitely encourage, in my mind, I see that as a balancing of the scales, right? Because we are always giving and taking, and editing and censoring, and to kind of ensure that there's this balance between our interpersonal relationships, and hopefully we are. And I think that the way in which we might, if it starts to feel like it's tipping in a direction that's also not benefiting you, then it's really about like, why do I edit? And what are some things I need to actually maybe change how I'm, how my approach or my tone, or, and being able to try to make those scales a little bit more equal.
And that raises another thought for me, which is not everybody is all things to you. And it may be
Mm,
that you're giving in on this one area, but the person is giving you something else in another area. And that gets us into compromising, which is a different conflict style. So we'll tackle that next week. How does that sound?
sounds great.
Thank you so much for listening. We hope you'll subscribe to our podcast, like it, share it, leave comments. We love to hear from you. Thank you.